A good walker leaves no tracks. A good speaker makes no slips. A good reckoner needs no tally. A good door needs no lock, yet no one can open it. Good binding requires no knots, yet no one can loosen it. Therefore, the sage takes care of all men and abandons no one. He takes care of all things and abandons nothing. This is called following the light. What is a good man? A teacher of a bad man. What is a bad man? A good man's charge. If the teacher is not respected and the student not cared for, confusion will arise, however clever one is. This is the crux of mystery. Teaching and learning are very important parts of life. All throughout our lives, we will find ourselves filling the roles of both teacher and student. Chapter 27 of the Tao Te Ching sheds some light on the teaching and learning process and gives some insight on how we can help it to work most optimally. The first few lines of the chapter can seem a little confusing without the context of the rest of the chapter. It's not immediately clear that we're talking about teaching and learning, and without understanding this, it can feel like these first lines are just a handful of useless paradoxes. However, when we look at the first few lines of the chapter in the context of the whole chapter, we begin to see the meaning coming out of the woodwork. These first few lines about speakers that don't stutter and bookkeepers that don't need tallies are descriptions of masters doing their respective tasks in ways that boggle the minds of those who do not possess their same skill. To the layman, a person that has truly mastered a particular skill seems to perform their task with an almost magical sense of ease and perfection. They astound others by performing their skills in ways that seem impossible if you don't possess the experience to understand what is being done. While the novice often favors extravagant bangs, flashes, and tricks to try to impress those around him, a true master can often be identified by the unassuming simplicity with which they perform their task, and yet the results far outstrip those of everyone else. Showiness is not a sign of mastery. A master is able to boil down a task to its absolute essentials, and then perfect each of these essentials to the point where they are flawless and automatic. As a person achieves mastery in his or her respective field, it then becomes their privilege and perhaps their obligation to pass this knowledge onward, so that others may benefit from and improve upon it. But the master should not approach this task as an opportunity to gratify themselves, but rather as a chance to help and care for others. The rest of the chapter offers advice on this matter. Now, as we get into that, let's just quickly examine the distinctions of good and bad used in this section. It does seem a little bit crass of us to just call all those who are learned good and all those who are unlearned bad. However, the Chinese word that is rendered here as good isn't really an exact translation. The word in Chinese is shan, which is used to denote skill or aptitude. The word that is here translated as bad is just the negative version of shan, denoting a lack of skill or aptitude. So we're not really talking about good people or bad people in a moral sense. We're just referring to those who are skilled, the teachers, and those who are not, the students. Notice here the importance that is put on the teacher-student relationship. Both parties have a responsibility and obligation to each other in order to achieve optimal learning. Of the student is required focus, determination to learn, and deference and respect for the teacher. This respect will allow the student to remain open to the instruction of the teacher and will allow the teacher to expound freely. Of the teacher is required patience, kindness, and love for the student. This will help the student to feel safe and comfortable in the learning environment, and will guide the teacher's teaching process to conform to the student's needs. If these obligations are disregarded, the learning process will suffer greatly, no matter how talented the teacher or the student. So since each of us finds ourselves in either the teaching or the learning role, or sometimes both, all throughout our lives, we would do well to take this timeless advice to heart, so that we can both experience teaching and learning in their most efficacious and enjoyable states. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow for Chapter 28. Peace and blessings.